We're going to take a look at pen and ink drawing. There's a great variety of styles of pen and ink. Long ago, before there were such thing as felt tip pens and ballpoint pens, quills actually quills made from feathers, and then later metal with tips that would split in the middle and vary the line were what people use. Now we have felt tip and other kinds of ink pens to replace those. The quill pens are still available, as well as the India inks that people have used, and they are great fun and produce wonderful results. They are a little more, create a little more investment in terms of getting different nibs and maintaining them and buying the ink. So to start out with, I always recommend starting with the simplest of materials, and then if it's a direction that someone really wants to pursue, we can get into how many different kinds of pens are out there. So the Micron I like very much. They make a variety of sizes, and these particular pens just make a simple straight line. So these would be good for cross-hatching or filling in. And then there are pens that are used for calligraphy that can also be used for drawing. And they have a fatter line, or a fatter tip. And so if you use the broad side, you get a fat stroke. If you turn it on its side, you get a thinner stroke, so you can vary the line work that way. Now, not everybody is interested in doing that kind of line work, but if they are, that is available. There's also, Micron makes brush pens, which of course replace a brush and again a well of ink. And they also, in terms of drawing, will produce a beautiful varied line. If you press lightly, you get a very thin line. Press more heavily, you get a thicker line. So the variance of line can do some really interesting things in making a drawing, if that's of interest. It can also be used traditionally and just getting a same size line or same size thick line. It's also nice for filling in. Ballpoint pen is always an option, although the flow of ink is a little bit different, but some people really enjoy that kind of touch. When I'm drawing, I kind of stay away from Sharpies because, and I should put something under here, because they bleed. It's always good when you're doing pen work to make sure you're not bleeding onto something you don't want to bleed onto. See, I've already bled onto this page. But Sharpies really bleed and bleed through. But also, if you hold it for a while, it will continue flowing and can cause blobs that maybe you're not interested in having. Whereas the Micron pens don't seem to do that. You can hold it, bleeds a little bit, but not quite as much. So it's just something to keep in mind. It doesn't mean that Sharpies don't work. It just means you have to be careful if you don't want to get a varied line that you aren't interested in having. So one consideration when working in pen and ink is what kind of look you want or is possible. For instance, if we had a photograph, this is a photograph of a nautilus shell, or if you're working from real life, For instance, I'll grab my bone here. If we were doing something like this that has a great variance of shape and contour and planes and so forth, you would have to figure out how to do that in pen. In graphite, and we've done a lot of work in graphite, shading and getting contours and planes and so forth, the pencil is really well suited to that, to get this sense of concaveness of the shell. But we can't do that quite the same way with pen. We could do cross-hatching. This isn't so much cross-hatching as it is just straight lines. And then to get it to really fill in, if we wanted darker areas, we would do the cross-hatching where we go a different direction than the first lines that we put in. That can be very tedious. Some people really, really enjoy that, but it is something that does take precision and some time. And of course, the other way is to not go for so much three-dimensional look, but to just focus on the line, which is completely appropriate. Can be a very beautiful expression of an image. I did try what I call high contrast pen and ink with this particular image. Let's see, there it is. Here we go. And it really was not satisfying to me because I could not get this sense of the shell going like this in a high contrast. And by high contrast, I mean either dark or white, either black or white, no in between, no cross-hatching. There's a tiny bit of stippling in here, which is this kind of thing, dot, 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 dot. But I just didn't feel that this style was appropriate for this image. So I decided to go with the line work with that particular image. So it's good to know what your destination is and what the image will be best suited to. So we will work this week on high contrast, except for that shell, and I will have some images of that we can work on. But we'll do mostly, provide images mostly for high contrast. So as I said, it's either black or white areas. And it's a style that works very well with pen and ink. Again, not the only way to work pen and ink, but it is one way, and it's a nice way to go. And here's another one that has even less, not as much of a balance, or maybe more of a balance of white and dark. So these are images either from life or from photographs that were three-dimensional and color that converted nicely into high contrast black and white ink.